Introduction. The myth of luck. They say some people are just lucky, born under the right star, right place, right time. But behind every success story, behind every streak of so-called luck, there's usually something else at work, something unseen, their mindset. This is the story of Caleb, a man with no special connections, no winning lottery ticket, and no miracle moment. Just an ordinary man who discovered an extraordinary truth. The thoughts you think determine the luck you live. This isn't fantasy or wishful thinking. It's neuroscience. It's spiritual law. It's lived reality. And today, you're going to see exactly how it plays out in the life of one man and how you can replicate it in your own life. Chapter 1. The shift begins. Caleb was a creature of habit. Wake up, hit snooze, drag through the day, work his job as a mid-level analyst, eat microwave dinners, scroll until sleep, wake up, repeat. He didn't hate his life, but he didn't love it either. It was gray, safe, boring. There was no fire in his soul, no sense of adventure. It was as if he had settled into life like an old couch, comfortable but uninspiring. One morning, as he stood in line at the local cafe, a man behind him tapped his shoulder and said, "You dropped this." Caleb turned, and there it was, a small, leather-bound journal. Only it wasn't his. He opened it. No name, no contact, just one sentence handwritten on the first page. What you think, you attract. He laughed. Probably one of those self-help nuts, he thought. But something about the words lingered, like a whisper that refused to be ignored. That night, he couldn't sleep. The words echoed in his mind. Curious, he pulled out his laptop and went down the rabbit hole. The law of attraction, cognitive behavioral therapy, reticular activating system. He learned how thoughts condition focus, how focus triggers perception, and how perception ultimately molds reality. Caleb decided to test it. For 1 week, every time he had a negative thought, he would stop and say the opposite. Instead of, "I'm tired of this job," he said, "I'm grateful I have a job, and a better one is on the way." Instead of, "Nothing ever works out," he'd say, "Everything is always working in my favor." He didn't expect anything, but on day 3, the barista remembered his name and smiled warmly. Day 4, his boss complimented a report he barely worked on. Day 5, a stranger in an elevator told him, "You have great energy." Day 6, a meeting got rescheduled, freeing his afternoon. Day 7, he found a parking spot in a full lot. Coincidence? Maybe, but it was enough to keep going. Key lessons. The smallest shift in thought can create a new direction in your reality. Your brain is always listening. Speak what you want, not what you fear. Mindset is not motivational fluff. It's the control panel for your focus and frequency. Chapter 2. Evidence of the invisible. As Caleb continued his thought replacement habit, the results accelerated. A $20 bill under his car windshield. A surprise refund from an overpayment 3 months ago. A message from a college friend with a job opportunity that had just opened up. Each moment left him stunned, not because the things were huge, but because they all arrived after he shifted his thinking. It was as if reality was saying, "Welcome. We've been waiting for you." He began journaling every morning. Not goals, not to-dos, just thoughts of who he wanted to be and what he expected to attract. I am a magnet for great people. I expect miracles. Good fortune follows me because I follow gratitude. And he wasn't just repeating affirmations. He was beginning to feel them, to believe them. His brain was forming new pathways, and his body started reacting with calm confidence instead of constant anxiety. He also became more intentional in his actions. He listened more deeply. He smiled more often. He took the longer route home just to enjoy the sunset. Life felt like it had gone from black and white to full color. It was like tuning into a different radio station, one he didn't even know existed before. And once he found the frequency, he never wanted to go back. His senses sharpened. He started noticing opportunities he used to ignore. A flyer for a networking event led to a new connection. A casual conversation with a neighbor led to a side project. A joke he cracked in a meeting landed him in front of a department head. Nothing felt forced. Everything felt aligned. Key lessons. Reality mirrors your mental frequency. What you dwell on becomes what you experience. Gratitude raises your vibration faster than effort. Evidence follows belief, not the other way around. Chapter 3. Thought becomes belief. By now, Caleb had gone from a passive observer to an active architect of his life. The affirmations were no longer tools, they were truths. He no longer said them to convince himself. He said them because they felt like descriptions of who he already was. I am lucky. I expect success. I live in flow. Caleb noticed something powerful. It wasn't the thoughts alone that created change. It was the emotional charge behind them. When he felt a deep sense of trust in what he was affirming, things manifested faster. When he doubted or forced it, the energy stalled. So he doubled down on belief. He created a morning ritual. Wake up. Meditate for 10 minutes to quiet the mind. Visualize his ideal day, feeling every emotion as if it were real. Speak gratitude aloud for things that had already happened and things he believed were on the way. And the results kept coming. He got invited to collaborate on a project that doubled his income. He met someone who shared his passions and values. His health improved, and he dropped 15 pounds without trying. Even his posture improved, as if his body had aligned with his mind. He stopped seeing challenges as threats. He saw them as puzzles to be solved by his higher self. He approached conversations with curiosity, not defensiveness. He walked through life expecting things to go well. And more often than not, they did. The people around him started calling him lucky. But Caleb knew the truth. He had trained for this. Key lessons. Belief is a multiplier. It transforms thoughts into reality. Emotional energy accelerates manifestation. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you are worthy of. Chapter 4. Luck loves the bold. With belief firmly anchored, Caleb realized there was another element that separated the lucky from the longing. Bold action. He looked back at the past few months and saw a pattern. Every major opportunity came not just from thinking positively, but from acting on those thoughts. It started small. He raised his hand to lead a department presentation. Then he asked his manager to consider him for a special project that required leadership, something he once thought he wasn't qualified for. But the real breakthrough came when he applied for a grant to develop a side business idea that had lived in his journal for years. That idea, creating a platform for personal transformation through micro courses, won funding. A small amount, but enough to begin. With each bold step, his confidence grew. He wasn't just thinking lucky, he was moving lucky. He started trusting his inner nudges. If a conversation felt meaningful, he followed up. If an event caught his eye, he went. If a door looked slightly ajar, he pushed it open. He learned something essential. Intuition speaks softly, but clearly to those who listen. And when paired with courage, it becomes a magnet for luck. He even started saying yes to things he once would have avoided: public speaking, difficult conversations, mentorship requests. Every yes became a stepping stone, each one placing him closer to the version of himself he envisioned. Not every move was perfect. He faced rejections, awkward moments, even a financial misstep, but his mindset reframed it all. This isn't a loss, it's a lesson, it's a redirection. And sure enough, new doors always appeared, sometimes better than the ones he originally aimed for. Key lessons. Action is the bridge between belief and manifestation. Intuition is a compass. Boldness is the vehicle. Rejection is not the opposite of luck. It is part of the path toward it. Chapter 5. The world bends to your mind. Years have passed. Caleb's life looked nothing like it once had. He was no longer just successful in the traditional sense. He was fulfilled. He had built a small company, helped thousands of people find purpose, and traveled the world teaching others what he had discovered. That luck is not random. It's cultivated. People constantly asked him, "How did you get so lucky?" His answer was always the same. I stopped thinking life was happening to me. I started creating it with my thoughts. He often reflected on that first journal, the sentence that started it all. What you think, you attract. At the time, it felt like a mystery. Now, it was a law, just as real as gravity. He shared this law wherever he went, whether on podcasts, in seminars, or during one-on-one coaching calls. His message was always simple, but powerful. If you want to change your life, start with the thoughts you think when no one's watching. That's where your power lies. That's where your luck begins. He had become the type of person who always seemed to be in the right place at the right time, not by coincidence, but by congruence. His thoughts, emotions, words, and actions were aligned, and that alignment created a force so consistent and magnetic that the world couldn't help but respond. Key lessons. The universe mirrors your internal alignment. Luck is a natural consequence of mental clarity and emotional consistency. You don't find luck. You train for it. When your inner world becomes your priority, your outer world rearranges itself in your favor. It's your turn to be lucky. And now we arrive at your chapter. You've walked through Caleb's story. You've seen the transformation, not from luck, but from thought. Not from chance, but from choice. The question is no longer if you can be lucky. It's whether you're ready to think like someone who already is. What if everything in your life began to shift because you believed it could? What if the missing link between where you are and where you want to be is not a person, not a paycheck, not a perfect plan, but a single, bold thought? When you wake up tomorrow, you'll face choices, thousands of them. What to focus on, what story to tell yourself, whether to believe in your potential or your past. The old you might focus on what's broken, but the lucky version of you, the one who's already walking in alignment, sees what's being built. The old you waits for a break. The lucky you creates one. The old you might say, "Why me?" But the new you says, "Why not me?" This is your invitation to step into the mindset that transforms. Start by noticing your words. Speak as if the universe is listening, because it is. Declare the outcome you desire before the evidence appears. When you think like someone who wins, life adjusts. When you speak like someone who's already blessed, blessings arrive. When you act like someone with favor on their side, doors swing open. And when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, you no longer say, "I have bad luck." You say, "This is redirecting me to something better." Luck is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of perspective. You now have the formula. Caleb's journey was just a mirror. His story reflects what's possible when thought becomes belief, and belief becomes identity. So take a deep breath. Stand up a little taller. Smile like something incredible is on its way. Because it is. Say it with conviction. I am lucky. I expect greatness. I attract what I believe. My thoughts are powerful. My path is unfolding. Everything is working in my favor. Say it again, until your nervous system believes it, until your body aligns with it, until your world reflects it. And remember, you don't chase luck. You think it into existence. Final lessons. You are always one thought away from a new reality. The luckiest people you know are often the most intentional thinkers. Begin today. Believe boldly and become the luck you seek.